Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are taking a look at the last of the brand new 2018 Mojo figures. Now I say brand new, and I get what you're thinking is probably, well, 2019 is right around the corner, but honestly these 2018 Mojo figures took a very long time to come out, and I don't even think they started to really hit stores until like August or September, somewhere in that vicinity. So they're pretty new. They haven't been out for very long before I was able to get a hold of them. And 2019 is right around the corner with a whole lot of very cool Mojo figures coming out. But regardless, we are now at the final stage of the 2018 reviews for these Mojo figures, and it is the Deinonychus. And I will say that this is my favorite out of the 2018 lineup for Mojo, because even though the colors on this are just way brighter than they were in the original prototype, and I definitely like the prototype coloration much better, this still looks really, really cool and absolutely beautiful in person. And one thing that I definitely dig about this is the fact that you could potentially say this is a realistic coloration for it, because there's no reason to believe that featheration like this couldn't be this bright. There are a lot of very, very brightly colored birds out there, so the coloration of the actual feathers could potentially be this bright, so it's a very potentially realistic coloration. And again, where you see the actual skin of the dinosaur, it's a much darker look and a much more realistic look than the brighter skin colors of the previous figures like the Diplodocus, Giganotosaurus, and Baryonyx. So with this Deinonychus, I really feel like the coloration itself is much more potentially real than the previous releases from Mojo this year. And again, the other ones were really, really nice, but honestly, I like this one the best, I think. So let's get a closer look. So starting up here at the head sculpt looks really nice and has just a ton of beautifully sculpted detail. You can see that the eye detail, or at least the detail around the eye, looks really nice. It's very nicely sculpted. They've done a great job on the overall skin detail and skin texture of the face here of this Deinonychus, and it looks beautiful. The eye does have a slight bit of sloppiness to the paint. You can see that it's not completely painted all the way to the end of where the eye should be, but it doesn't look terrible from a step back. And this eye as well has a little bit of sloppiness, but not as much as the other one. They still do look really good, but one thing that is a little bit of a downside to the Deinonychus's eyes is the fact that they didn't include a gloss on the eye, and I don't know why. I feel like they could have definitely done that, and it would have made that eye just really pop, make it look much better. But they didn't, and it still looks really nice. It's just something that could have been included to make it look a little bit nicer. You can see honestly that the coloration of the head is that dark gray, but it's got like a black dry brushing over it, and it looks really nice. It kind of brought out the details a little bit, makes them pop. Mine unfortunately has a little bit of a scuff here. It came like this, with a little bit of the paint skipped off here in the front area by the nostril, which the nostrils are actually sculpted really nicely. But so this little white area that you see there is not supposed to be there. It's just that mine lost a little bit of paint in transit to me. I think the inside of the mouth is really beautifully done. I think that tongue just looks super cool. It's in kind of a slightly arched pose, and it just looks really, really nice. You can see the teeth are all sculpted out individually, and they're painted fairly nice. There's a little bit of sloppiness up here in the front, but nothing terrible. It looks pretty good actually. And the skin here hanging on the inside of the mouth also looks very nice, very highly detailed, as is the inside of the mouth as far as the detail goes. You can see the teeth on this side look really nice as far as the sculpting and painting. I love that they're all individually sculpted. They're not all bunched together, so that's very, very cool. One thing that's a little bit of a bummer as far as the mouth goes is on the Baryonyx. You had heard me, if you watched that review, you have probably heard me rave a bit about how nice the gloss was on the inside of the mouth. But with this Deinonychus, or at least with mine, there isn't much of a gloss to the mouth, and I don't know why, because I feel like that gloss on the inside of the mouth and the gloss on the eye would have really made this thing just look a lot more amazing to me and make it pop a lot more. They actually didn't include any gloss on the nostrils either on this one, but they did on the Baryonyx, so there are some strange inconsistencies between each of the 2018 figures, but they do still all have their own individual charms. Then as we start to head back the neck here, you can see that beautiful little tuft of feathers up on the top of the head. It's got a little bit of a crest of featheration, and it's a nice red color to really make that pop and just jump out at you. You see the beautiful coloration of the feathers here, this very bright yellow, which I honestly really do like, starts to appear. And you can see a little bit of the paint has been airbrushed. It's gotten down here onto the neck where it should be just gray, but that's not a very big deal. It looks pretty good. And the overall detail of the actual featheration is incredible. Look, as I turn it and you look at it, the actual sculpting of the feathers themselves really looks nice. I think that looks incredible. And these arm feathers look beautiful as well. Very bright red that they've included there to really make that jump out at you. And again, we get to the hands, it's that dark gray, and it looks very nice. The nails on the hands actually look pretty good. They don't look weird like the Baryonyx and the Giganotosaurus. I feel like their nails kind of look a little weird, but that is not the case at all on the Deinonychus' hands. I feel like they look really quite nice, and there's no real sloppiness or anything as far as the paint goes, so that's definitely a plus as well. The featheration again looks very nice, and honestly what's cool about the feathers is if you look at them, some feathers are different sizes than others. Some, like up here on the back, you can see they're larger feathers, but then when you get to the side here on the stomach, the feathers are a lot smaller and a lot finer, so that's a very nice touch, something small and subtle that they threw into the actual sculpting. And again, over here onto the leg here, you can actually see the feathers are fairly small here on the leg as well, but the higher you get, the larger they kind of get. You can see the hip bone is protruding. It's very nicely sculpted there. You can see it even through the feathers. Again, that red featheration here looks very good, just giving it that little bit of a striking appearance. And then we get down here into the foot. That is nice dark gray with a beautiful black dry brushing to really make it look very real and nice. Nails look pretty good. Doesn't appear to be any sloppiness with the paint. And that sickle claw looks pretty good as well. Again, some of the red paint right here has been airbrushed on, and it has gotten a little bit onto the leg, but from a little distance away you don't really notice that at all. And then we come back here into the tail, and you can again see that the featheration is all sorts of different sizes, all over depending on where it is located on the body. So that looks very good as well. And then this featheration runs out this very, very long tail, and then we get to this beautifully striking tail feather here that we've got going on. These tail feathers just look incredible. I love that they have that yellow center, but then this very nice red around the outside. The underside is just purely yellow, but it does look very good still as far as the sculpting goes. But the red here on the end of the tail feathers looks incredible. Again, we come to this side. This side of the head also looks very, very nice. We start to run down the neck, that beautiful crest of red feathers on the top of the head there. Again, you can actually see here these feathers up here closer to the top of the head are quite large, and then they start to decrease in size right here in the neck. So I love that they've gone to the effort of resizing different feathers for different areas of the body, as opposed to just all the feathers being one size. And they're not really those big fluffy feathers that a lot of companies kind of tend to put on dinosaurs, where they kind of remind you of like emu feathers or ostrich feathers. These are much finer feathers, and they definitely look very cool as far as they go. And the arm here, again, that beautiful red on the arm here, that looks very nice. Very nicely colored hands, gray with that dark black dry brushing to bring out the detail and make it all pop to you. This foot here is up in the arm area of the feathers as well, and look at how nice that is. That foot is sculpted beautifully. I really like that. That sickle claw looks good, and again, the nails are not sloppily painted. I feel like Mojo is really hitting their stride here with this figure, so it's a little upsetting that it's the last of them to review for 2018, but it does look really nice. Those feet look so bird-like and so beautiful. And then there's that little area of those red feathers, again, right above the leg. And then we come up here, you can see the leg is kind of scrunching up the body here a little, so some pretty nice attention to detail as this leg is pushing up into the body as it's stepping forward. And then we come up to the length of the tail, again, to those beautiful tail feathers that are very nice and red here at the end of the body. Even the underside of the dinosaur sports some very nice sculpt work and detail, and I definitely dig every area of this incredible looking Deinonychus. Now, for me, one of the most impressive factors of this figure when I actually got it out and looked at it is the size. It is long, super huge. For being a Deinonychus, a lot of the time when companies make a Deinonychus figure, they're much smaller. Definitely way smaller, but this Mojo Deinonychus is gigantic in my opinion. So, to show you how large, let's get a size on it. So from the head to the tail, you are looking at about 12.5 inches, so that's pretty darn long, or about 31, almost 32 centimeters. And for a height, the highest point would be the tail. You are looking at a little bit over 5, almost 5.25 inches, or about 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, so showing you right there how big this Deinonychus is next to the Papo Rex. That should definitely give you a great idea of how large this Deinonychus is. As I said, it is very, very big compared to what I would expect a company to make with a Deinonychus, so that is another of the many pluses for this Deinonychus figure from Mojo. And for a second size comparison, there is the Diplodocus next to the Deinonychus. So again, it should give you actually a pretty good idea of what both are. The Diplodocus itself is a pretty sizable figure, but this Deinonychus is just really quite large. So I have a good bit more of Mojo figures to come, but this was the final release. I'm not sure if there was actually a timeline as far as when these were coming out, if there was like one that came out before the other. I think they all just kind of launched at the same time, but this is the final release as far as my reviewing goes for these figures. It's the last one I've got for 2018, and it's the last one they released, but it is, in my opinion, the best of the bunch because it is just so stinking nice. I love the pose it's in, like it's kind of charging down to grab maybe a mammal or something that's running around, some kind of small critter that's running around there, and he wants to eat it, and it's just kind of lunging down, and it just really gives you a good idea for the scene and just kind of takes you back and just kind of pops the scene right into your head as to this Deinonychus jumping down and attacking some kind of smaller prey. I think that is very cool, and it sets up a good chance for something to pose it with if you can get some kind of smaller animal that you could throw down there and just create a scene for yourself. So this is a very, very cool Deinonychus. The sculpting of it is just fantastic. It really is. As far as the sculpt goes, it's definitely the best, in my opinion, sculpt that we got out of the entire Mojo line for 2018. It's just so beautiful, and the coloration on it is just very cool as well. Like I said, I feel like the coloration is potentially a realistic color, even though it's significantly brighter than the prototype, and I would have preferred the prototype coloration, honestly, over this one, which is the same story with all of the 2018 Mojo releases. But that does not, again, mean that this isn't a potentially realistic color, because I could totally see Featheration being this bright, and the areas that needed to be dark were dark, like the hands and the foot and the face there. You can see that the skin coloration, wherever there is actual skin and not feathers, is very dark, and it's not an overly bright gray or anything like a lot of the other dinosaurs have had. A much brighter version of their darker coloration they should have. Where it needs to be dark on this Deinonychus, it is dark, and it looks beautiful. So if you want to buy this Deinonychus or any of the other Mojo figures in general from the 2018 lineup, I will throw a link in the description to everythingdinosaur.com, because that is a beautiful website with beautiful figures and a great place to get so many different brands of dinosaurs all together. So you can go ahead and buy just this Deinonychus, the entire Mojo line, or whatever you want from everythingdinosaur.com. Just check the description, as there will be a link there for you. And please like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.